Welcome to this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market, where I take a look at the luxury market, the Manhattan market, and the Brooklyn market. I do it because I want you to be informed. It never hurts when you're a consumer to be informed. Welcome to this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market. We're going to take a look at what happened last week, September 12th to the 18th. As always, I am going to be bringing you the very latest news on what's happening in the luxury market, the Manhattan market, and the Brooklyn market. Before I get started, I just want to remind everyone that I do this every week because I want you to be informed. So the more informed you are, the better decisions you can make, whether it's buying or selling, or you just want to know what's happening in the market so that you can have a sense of how it's affecting your particular property. All of this information should be helpful to you, and the market has been changing a lot. So for those who've been following along, I hope it's been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to subscribe. If you want to share this with someone, feel free to send them the link. If you want to ask me questions, either about some of the things that I cover, or maybe even just things that I don't cover, that you're curious about in terms of the real estate market, just feel free to post those below. All right, let's get started. We're going to get started with the luxury market, as we always do. Last week, there were 20 contracts signed. That is double the amount than the week before, and honestly, a very good showing given all the volatility in the stock market last week. So condos outsold co-ops 12-4. There were 3 townhouses in the mix, and there was 1 condo in the mix. Let's take a look at the number 1 contract. It was Penthouse 90 at 35 Hudson Yards. It was asking $49 million. It was reduced from $59 million when the building started marketing in 2019. It is one of the top 10 contracts of 2022. The sponsor unit has 10,171 square feet. It includes 5 bedrooms and 8.5 bathrooms. It features 14-foot ceilings, a 454 square foot terrace, spectacular views of the Hudson River, the bridges, and New York City. Amenities include a doorman, fitness center, yoga studio, golf simulator, screening room, dining room, and a residence lounge with a terrace. Hudson Yards is becoming a really interesting area. In fact, I was just over there today with a client. It's really remarkable what a cute little neighborhood it is turning out to be. Number 2 contract, Townhouse at 137 West 13th Street, just down the block from me. The 21-foot wide townhouse has 7,386 square feet. It has 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, 2 powder rooms, 4 fireplaces, 4 terraces, a garden, and an elevator. The house was recently gut renovated, and the cellar was excavated to create a 9-foot ceiling that houses a screening room, a gym, an infrared sauna with an adjacent shower, powder room, laundry room, and wine room. It is a stunning location. It is a stunning home. Congratulations to those lucky buyers. Let's move on to the quick stats. The total weekly asking price sales volume, 193,108,000. The average asking price, $9,655,000. The median asking price, $5,162,500. The average discount from original ask to last asking price, 7%. We are seeing a bit more negotiability in the luxury market, at least in the last few weeks. It'll be interesting to see if this trend of more negotiability continues from the original ask to the last asking price. This week it was 7%. Average days on the market, 521. Well, as you can see, some of these properties, the number 1 contract in particular, has been on the market since 2019. So that this new development does skew the days on market. That is quite normal for new development. And since a lot of the new development will fall into the luxury category, that will often skew the numbers so that we're seeing higher days on the market than with regular resales. All right, that is it for this week's look at the luxury market. Now let's move on. Let's take a look and see what's going on in Manhattan. What happened in Manhattan last week? Well, let's talk about just a quick overview. The supply was up. It's just not as much as we would have expected this time of year. The pending sales are a bit lower, and maybe it means that the buyers are still sitting and waiting for more inventory to come on the market because there's not a lot of new property for them to consider. So they could be holding back a bit. Not quite sure. And I'm going to share a chart with you that shows how the discounts that are happening, and that will probably be of great interest to both buyers and sellers. We are seeing that the discounts are starting to rise for units that are mispriced. And we can talk more about that as we get to that chart. We're going to take a look at the market ticker. It's going to show us the 1 week look at the supply, the contract signed, the off market, and where the market pulse is at. We are seeing, again, 568 properties for our supply. That is up 1.79% week over week. Contract signed, 160 contracts signed. That's up almost 16%. But overall, we're not seeing such big activity. Off-market properties, we are down a bit on that, 3.45%. 140 properties are off the market right now. Again, we've talked about in the past few weeks why that might be happening. Sellers could be getting frustrated with not getting the prices that they want. They've decided maybe they're going to take them off. Maybe they're just going to hang on to them. Maybe they're going to rent them. Not exactly sure. But what is this all resulting to? In the market pulse sense, it is a neutral market. That means it's not really favoring buyers or sellers. Buyers, this could be a really good opportunity for you if you can find something that you like. You may have more negotiability right now than you may have in the near future and than you did have in the past. All right, let's take a look at a little more detail. We're going to look first a chart just on supply. The Manhattan inventory ticked higher as the fall listing season gets underway. We're kind of on track, but maybe not quite where we would like to be. The demand, we're not seeing the demand as quite as high. Again, could be, as I said, that buyers are waiting for more inventory, so they're not quite ready to make a decision. The new listings spiked higher, but they remain at or below the seasonal trends. We're going to have to keep an eye on that one. The contract signed has ticked up, but just not quite sure where we're going with this. You know, it's still early enough in the fall market that we're not quite sure if this is a trend or if this is just a kind of a weekly moment in time. And here's this chart on discounts versus days on market. This is very much to the heart of what I often say about getting it right. You want in those first few weeks of being on the market, certainly within the first 30 days, to make your deal. Why? Because there is less of a discount that will occur. You will not have to discount your price quite as much in those first 30 days. You can see just for July, I mean, that's the latest information that we have. We don't have August yet, but we will have that soon. You can see that in the 30 days or less, it's, 1.6% discount. Once we start to get into 30 to 60 days, 2.8%. And then it takes a big jump, 61 to 120 days, 6.2%. And for 121 plus days to contract, 7.1%. Sellers You want to make your deal in the first 30 days. You can see from the chart that the discount versus days on market is a real thing. It's definitely going to be in your best interest to make your deal sooner rather than later. Okay, I hope this chart was helpful because it's so to the point. And you can see for yourself, going back even to January, February, March, April, May, all the way through till July, you can see what happens. Under 30 days or 30 days, very little discount. Maybe even in the 30 to 60 day arena, that is not so bad. But boy, once you get past 60 days, the discount really kicks in. Okay, I'm going to stop lecturing on that. Let's take a look. That's it for Manhattan. Let's take a look now at what's going on in Brooklyn. Okay, Brooklyn, Brooklyn continues to perform better than Manhattan. It just has been that way, gosh, since COVID. Since we came out of COVID, Brooklyn really took off far more quickly in terms of recovery, and then continued recovery, and then continued demand for Brooklyn since we reopened after COVID. Let's take a look. We're going to look at the 1 week chart just to give you a little more perspective, and then we're going to drill down on the supply and the contract sign and the pending activity and projections with regard to that. And also we're going to look at the discounts for days on market in Brooklyn. Okay, so the 1 week look, last week's look at the supply had the supply down almost 18%. 225 properties on the market over the last week. This is really much lower than we were hoping for, especially when you look at the contract signed up over 44%, 137 contracts signed. With regard to the off-market properties, there were 94 from last week, and that's actually up almost 29%. But as you can see, that's not very many off-market properties. You could see where Brooklyn is just marching along a little differently than Manhattan. This continues to be, if we look at the market pulse, this is a seller's market. It continues to be a seller's market. Let's take a look at the supply chart. The Brooklyn inventory did tick up a little bit as the listing season gets underway. The demand, the sales, the pending sales, tick down just ever so slightly. And we see the weekly new listings dropping and remaining below trend. Contracts signed, that activity did tick up. It remains to be seen, however, if we will be following as trend of the previous years. Still too soon to say. And this is the chart you've been waiting for. Brooklyn listing discounts by days on the market. Just as we looked at Manhattan, so too are we looking at the discounts in Brooklyn. Even more than in Manhattan, if a Brooklyn property was priced correctly, what we're seeing is that there's really like no discount. Sellers, if you are on target with your pricing, you can expect to very likely get your asking price. Previously, you could have expected to have gotten more than your asking price, but now we're seeing there's zero negotiability in those first 30 days. Once you get into 30 to 60 days, still quite small, 2.23%. Let's say you don't quite get it right, if you maybe make a little adjustment, you will very quickly get traction in those first 30 to 60 days. If, however, you wait and you're stubborn and you hold out, if you get to 61 days to 120 days, you see that there is a jump, almost 5% negotiability. And if you end up, God forbid, 121 plus days, you're almost at 6%. I think the takeaway for Brooklyn is the market is still quite tight there. Buyers you may find and be frustrated with the inventory. I would, as always, encourage you to keep an eye on properties that are of interest to you, you may find that if those sellers somehow missed the market because they overpriced, they may be more negotiable now, and you may be able to make a deal that works for you. It remains to be seen whether we're going to see a lot more property coming on in Brooklyn. That would go for Manhattan as well. We're still middle of September, so there's time. But in the meantime, the quick takeaway is not as much negotiability, not as much discount going on in Brooklyn. You're getting a little more inventory. Still, same principles hold true. Buyers, if you're interested in something, you really should step up, because you can't expect a big discount there, and you may still have competition. And sellers, don't get too ambitious with your pricing, because you could see if you're off even by a little bit and you end up sitting on the market, you may have to take a bit more of a discount than you had hoped. All right. Again, any questions, let me know. If there's information about the real estate market that I'm not reporting on here, please let me know it. What kind of information would be helpful to you? Again, feel free to share these reports if you think they'll help someone. And please subscribe if this information is helpful to you. All right, that's it for this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market. I will be back next week with more up-to-the-minute news on what's going on in the luxury Manhattan and Brooklyn markets. In the meantime, take care.